Hey y'all, Daniel Aaron here, your guide to vibrant living, and extinction phase bears a little explanation. Well, actually, let me rewind a little bit. I am offering something to you that sprung out of our satsang this morning. Working with some clients and students in the midst of our membership, exploring how meditation works related to brain science, quantum science, meditation, and manifestation, changing things in our life. And so, awesomely, one of us said, hey, I'm doing really well, like for a few days in a row I'm making good progress, and then something comes up and it gets in the way and it keeps happening and pulling me back, and I am having trouble overcoming it. Interesting. And then another client who I work with one-to-one just wrote to me and said, since we started doing this work, like this stuff is coming up and it seems like old stuff and it's really, getting there and it's tough. And there is a reason for that. And not only is there a reason, I'll explain it and give you some idea of how to work with it, which is this. Years ago, when I was fresh to parenting, my daughter was just a wee little thing, right? That, and pregnancy was a big thing, and to get through that, and well, now she's here, and then what do we do now? Like, hey, I don't know, my parents, didn't do a great job with parenting, and they didn't have the resources, but I have resources, so I'm going to learn. One of the most powerful learnings for me in that early phase about parenting was about positive parenting. And one of the keys to positive parenting is you're focusing on what's working, what's going well, not entirely to the exclusion of things that are not permitted or where we have boundaries. So, the extinction phase, I learned, works like this. If you have a child who's been, say, really fussy about their food, and every time you give them food they knock it on the floor and they won't eat anything, and then the parents sort of bend over backwards and capitulate and try and figure out, and what about if they eat this, and how about this, and can you give this? Part of course, what the child learns is, if I just fuss enough, I'm going to get my way. So, if we as parent catch on at a certain point, wait, this isn't working to do it this way, I need to change my tactics, not necessarily bend over backwards and accommodate so that my child can be a little tyrant in this moment and get what they want. I'm going to stop responding to that behavior, reacting to that behavior, and they're not going to get the same result. Make sense? You with me so far? Now, what happens when we stop playing the game? There is a part of the child that then says, no way, I will not tolerate this. So rather than just say, oh, they're not playing anymore, I'm going to, let's figure out a different way, they increase their effort. So what used to be, a bit of a little tantrum becomes an explosion. They turn into a little monster. And as a parent, it's like, how do I handle that? And we so want to stop the upset. And so the lesson is to say, okay, I have to ride this out. It's called the extinction phase, because as that behavior comes to an end, as we stop playing that game, the child will try harder to get the same result. Which is a little bit, by the way, taking it to another field, if we have ever dealt with in our body candida, and a mold fungus virus inside us that eats sugar, and we say, all right, you know what, no more, I'm not going to do this anymore. When we stop sugar, that mold inside us will go, I want sugar, right? And we'll rear up powerfully, and the cravings get super strong for a while. And yet, as the name indicates, extinction, it means it's coming to an end. Right? So, now, bringing this all back around to, especially to two of my friends here, when we make a decision, I'm going to do this, when we, on a certain level, enter into the quantum field and say, this is what I'm recreating, this is what I'm manifesting, then the part of us that was on a different track, that had been invested in some kind of dysfunctional pattern, some kind of pain, some kind of suffering, which is an emotional habit. It's residing in the body, right? It's the old program. That emotional habit, the memory, is an addiction, a chemical addiction. We are used to feeling that way, and that chemical addiction will send off to the brain, think this way, and it creates this thought feeling cycle. And when another greater part of us, spirit transformational super part of us, says, I'm going this way, and part of us wants to go this way, that old pattern wants to go this way, that pattern will, just like the child becomes a monster, just like the candida rears up, in the same way our ego, our habit, the emotional addiction will say, come on, feed me. I've got these receptor sites, I'm ready for it, I'm ready to suffer, I'm ready to feel the same pain. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, we've all done it, we've all been there. So what to do about that? One is to know that this is normal. This is what happens when we decide, when we choose with an amplitude, with an energy that overrides our past experience and programming. Then the ego, or that human animal survival part of us, doesn't just give up. It says, I'm going to get my way. And so we, the greater part of us, must stand strong and say no, right? And when it rears up, say, I know who you are, I know what you want, you're not getting it, we're going over here. You know, it's like training ourselves, like training our children, like training our bodies, like training animals, right? It's all the same, conditioning. And while there is a lot more to us, there is a certain part that runs on conditioning and patterns, and we are so lucky with this huge frontal lobe, 40% of the entire mass of our brain, right? We're the only creature alive that we know of that has that. We get to make those kind of decisions. We get to direct the panoply of us. We get to orchestrate and say, you, that part, you need to quiet down. You, that part, you need to increase. All right. I hope that all makes sense to you. Of course, if you're interested in this and you want to go deeper with it, I encourage you, I invite you, my special invitation to join us in our Sangha, our community, our membership, Your Vibrant Life Now. I'll put a little information here in the comments, and if you've got questions or comments, fire away. I will read them, and I look forward to responding. And, all that said, thank you for being interested in creating your vibrant life. Thank you for being tuned in. Thank you for being a co-conspirator on the path.